Welcome to the Green Ring, and thanks for watching. This video is first in a series of intermission features between Die Walküre and Siegfried, during the channel's note-by-note analysis of Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen from first page to last. Please do leave a like and or add comment, even subscribe to the channel, any of these being so vital to the YouTube algorithm which keeps this one-of-a-kind enterprise afloat. The Green Ring introduces many syntactic innovations crowded among those traditional analysis has identified as leitmotifs or motifs. This commentary prefers to take Wagner at his word, who thought of his music's functionality as parallel to that of spoken and written language. Through the large web of themes which dominate all four works, a language has been created of which the world as yet knows nothing. Rather than confuse the issue by adopting in place of musical terms linguistic ones, such as noun, verb, preposition, prefix, suffix, the Green Ring refers to the longest of the tetralogy's syntactic elements as morphemes, shorter constituents, modules, the shortest, cells. Since no previous analysis has recognized these elements, and as they play so prominent a role in this exhaustive analysis, special attention is devoted to them at this midpoint, giving those who follow the arguments it presents a clearer grasp both as they move forward and when revisiting prior chapters. This video concentrates on his employment of the anti-barrier module to advance his narrative purposes. This module, the barrier module's retrograde, acts as its conceptual antagonist with a sense of bold resistance to those challenges the barrier represents. The anti-barrier was the first module outside the established analytic canon I stumbled over. Since first hearing Siegfried back in 1968, one of its passages baffled me for years, a mystery even Cook's excellent An Introduction to Der Ring des Nibelungen didn't clarify. After the young Welsung plunges Nothung into Fafner's heart, he jubilates with a pair of phrases, then falls silent for the better part of 3 measures, until Fafner questions who has slain him. During these wordless measures, strings pulsing resentment, bassoons octavo strings thrice alternate a cryptic module with resentment, with timpani's characteristic tritone dragon thump. This syntactic mix pulses another 3 times during the pauses separating Fafner's lyrics, then disappears from the drama, never to be heard again, at least not in this particular combination. In 1982, Cook's Vindications was published, a collection of essays on diverse things musical with a brief but potent diversion into Emily Bronte. In the first of these, the musical symbolism of Wagner's music dramas, he identifies a ring module he refers to as the barrier, a moniker the Green Ring embraces. One detail of Cook's discovery was the module's brevity, 4 notes only. On revisiting the Siegfried passage, its oddly baffling module's 4 notes turned out to be a perfect retrograde of the barrier. It still troubled me this one instance in Siegfried Act 2 appeared to be the module's only occurrence, a procedure Wagner never followed. Closer examination of the score turned up multiple instances of 4 falling scalar notes followed by a single upward interval leap, though rarely the Siegfried tritone characteristic of Fafner. The barrier also initiates frequently on leaps other than the 5th Cook prescribes. Wagner's syntax is not rigid, but mutates according to its harmonic and dramatic contexts. Cook demonstrated its recombinant nature, meaning individual elements mixed, a feature that caused the analyst Ernest Newman no end of annoyance, despite it's the only other quality of the Meister's compositional style he himself ever identified. This suggested another of Siegfried Act II's interesting syntactic developments. After killing Mime, the Welsung throws the dwarf's corpse into Neidhöhle, accompanied by cellos repeatedly tapping out the first two-thirds of the Nibelung tattoo, each time followed by the horn call itself, but only a fragment cut off at its Erde melody notes, a truncation playing a major role in the Act III Scene 2-3 interlude as Siegfried crosses the magic fire around Brünnhilde's rock to recur in Götterdämmerung as the hero approaches Gibbertung Hall. It was then a simple matter to find two anti-barriers in the noble Siegfried morpheme, thus further justify it as a sonic mark of resistance against barriers thrown down before various characters' aspirations. The anti-barrier first sounds quite early in the tale, as Welgunder notices Alberich's first appearance with suspicion, quickly followed by Flosshilde's panicky caution against his likely threat, a module the Nibelung doggedly repeats in his struggles to climb the Rhinebed's treacherous rocks. It goes on to characterize his futile attempts to overcome their resistance to his wooing, something they occasionally oppose with their own anti-barriers. Wotan shrugs off Fricka's objections to his infidelities with the module. Loge rails at the giants as they abduct Freya, then in Rheingold's Scene 2-3 interlude, it pulses through Alberich's looming opposition to godly power to then fire his cries as he suppresses his Nibelung minions' potential resistance. Once trapped by Wotan, the dwarf protests against loss of his ring through a chain of anti-barriers similar to those in the Scene 2-3 interlude, and the god announces his Welsung breeding plan, countering the Nibelung's continued threat with an anti-barrier. The module's progress is subtly gradual as Die Walküre begins, in tune with the Welsung's love, tentative feeling its way towards defying the loveless world around it. Sigmund silently resolves to resist his passion with the rising series of anti-barriers, the same which later bolsters Sieglinde's defiance in the face of Hunding's threat. The defiant module launches the Welsung's tale of renegade life to at last burst out unmistakably as he calls for the sword his absent father once promised him. It prominently outlines his cries as he prepares to draw Nothung, then concludes his Act I jubilation over their forbidden incestuous love. The anti-bearer plays a crucial role in Die Walküre Act II, given that passage turns on four major conflicts: Fricka's with Wotan, the gods with his daughter, Brünnhilde with the Sigmund, and the Welsung with Hunding. Wotan initially defends his son with a series of anti-barriers, but once Fricka aggressively pursues her resistance, the module disappears from his voice, migrated entirely to hers. Brünnhilde bristles at Fricka's approach, then bridles at her triumph with the module, along with her father's depression. In his great monologue, it paints Wotan's despair, reluctance to divulge his secrets, struggle with Loge, his stubborn will to love, his mistakes, Alberich's threat embodied in the Rheingold, and his loveless fatherhood. Erda's challenge, the gods' hopes and fears over mortal warriors he's assembled in Valhalla, as well as Siegmund, his despair over failure, and finally his outrage at Brünnhilde's resistance. The Valkyrie wisely avoids the module until quietly resisting her father's rage once he's stormed away. Sigmund uses it in his attempt to nudge Sieglinde out of her panic, while it peppers her refusal. Once the Welsung realizes he must lose her, it sparks back and forth between him and the Valkyrie, at last crowning both his resolve for the twins to die rather than parting them, and Brünnhilde's final defiance of Wotan's decree, then concludes Act II with the Sigmund-Hunding opposition. Anti-barriers underlined the Valkyries' Act 3 struggles with their unruly mounts, then Brunhilde's difficulties through her defiant championship of Sieglinde, and Rossweis's refusal to help. It enlightens Sieglinde's resistance to Brunhilde's aid, then her appeals for that aid against Wotan's approach. It at last reaches its full syntactic prominence in noble Siegfried, to then rifle the god's displays of outrage against his daughter, her conflict with his resolve, and his determination to effect it. As father and daughter argue back and forth in isolation, anti-barriers dance between them to end act and opera with the defensive fires, Wotan's sorrow, and the promise of Siegfried's opposition to the god's fate. This is as far as I'll examine instances of this module until moving forward to Siegfried and Götterdämmerung, where it continues to have a significant impact on the work's syntax. My hope is this short video gives you a more complete idea of what I believe are its associative ramifications. Thank you again so much for watching, and do please hit the like button, leave a comment, and if you found this worthwhile, subscribe for the rest of what will be an epic journey. Any and or all are so important to the YouTube algorithm. Oh, and a little donation to my Patreon account would be a huge help in completing this massive work.